Welcome to Lived Stories, a podcast that holds space for inspirational interactions that are real about navigating the challenging journey of separation and divorce. Expect laughter and some tears. It's all welcomed because Lived Stories is meant to be a safe space. I'm your host, Liv Lewis, and I'm here kicking in with my day one, y'all. Zakiya Young. You're gonna hear me call her Z, but Z's in the building.
Yeah.
It's that type of energy today, and so that means that lets you know we're about to set things off.
All the way off. All the way off. Like my filter. Hey girl, how you doing?
Oh, I'm so happy to see you.
I'm so happy to see you too and that you're doing this. This is amazing.
Thank you, thank you. So, I think you guys are all familiar with my format where I ask my guests, aka my friends, to kind of send me a 1 to 2 sentence about who they are at their core. And usually it's cute and bubbly, and I'm like, yes, girl, that. And so Zero Backham was like, da 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 da. And I was like, no, boo, I needed to be like, because you guys, I'm in marketing in my profession, and I'm in marketing, I'm a perfectionist, i.e. And I wrote her back, and she was like, no, but this is it. And I'm gonna read to you guys. So she said, this is it. And then when I read it, it hit me so hard in a way that I was like, perfect. So this is also is going to set the stage for the kind of conversation, the kind of friend Z is. So she writes me, she's like, girl, um, so I'm like, no, make it more positive. Like, it needs to be short and concise and pithy. And she's like, but that's not me. Check me, Z. And then she like then she kind of let me have it. It was like a tantrum. In my mind, I saw her like typing really fast. Come at me like, you. And she wrote, I'm single, childless, infertile, successful actress and playwright. I'm gonna pause it because yes, she is successful playwright. When you see her face, you'd be like, oh, I see her in. I'll get into that in a second. Successful actress and playwright, learning how to live with endometriosis and menopause. I can't give the encouraging, cheery bios like the other women have. I could, but it wouldn't be authentic. I read their bios and I'm like, truly happy for them, but I can't relate. Yeah, that's real. I'm not a wife or a mother. I don't feel inconquerable because I'm still learning how to navigate my disease and my fertility, which was conquered by it. At my core, y'all sit down for this, like clutch a pearl, gather your blanket. She's like, at my core, I'm disappointed, exhausted, but determined because I know I'm good and literally have put too much time and energy into my career to quit. But again, that's career related. My life is my career and my health. And then, of course, I wrote back, "Well, that's perfect." And the creative person, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna start the conversation like this." Da, 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 da. So Z, thank you first for keeping me honest and checking me for my expectation of some pithy, cheery, concise thing when you kept it a buck with me about the reality of this journey. And that's why I really wanted to create this space. Yes, there are moments for stories and ups and positivity, but there's also lows and low lows. And sometimes you're like, I thought I was at the bottom, and there's like another level to this. So, you're like,
There's a basement level
this was
beneath
like,
ground.
right, like, oh, I'm dying, I'm dead, I'm in the coffin. Like, what you mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So thank you for
yeah.
keeping it a buck with me
Of
in
course.
that it ain't always gonna be cheery and roses, and it is what it is, but also too, there's a joy in accepting what it is and still feeling empowered, which is what I took
Mhm.
from that.
Yeah, yeah, for real. And thank you for letting me be me because it's like in this industry, I know how to give the sound bite. But since you
Mhm,
are my dear friend, I was like, I can't front. Like, I
mhm,
just
mhm.
can't. And this is such an important topic. And so many of us have different stories. And I just felt like, you know what? I will happily volunteer as tribute to show the mess that can come as you're readjusting and figuring stuff out. Like, I do think if this had been before my diagnosis of endometriosis, I might have had a different spin on it,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
that's such a big boulder in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we'll get into this, but just thinking of the years that I bit my tongue, and, inflammation makes every disease worse. And
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
trying to be a submissive Christian wife in a bad marriage, I'm like, how much did that contribute to how devastating my diagnosis was? Because it's
Mm.
stage 4 endometriosis. All of the surgeons, my 3 surgeons, said it was the worst case they've ever seen, one of the worst cases they've ever seen. So
Wow.
overachiever, but also
Mm-hmm.
like I remember times during my marriage where I would feel stuff physically in my body, but because I was trying to be a Proverbs 31 woman,
Mm.
I
They
was
need
like,
like the Gen Z version. Have you seen the TikTok videos of like the Bible translated?
no.
Need a I'm sending it to you, but I need
I,
somebody to send me Proverbs 31, like how the Gen Z talk or Riz is showing,
uh,
so that like I could just cackle. Anyway,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yeah, talk up Proverbs 31, right? That's where they sent us. No
The
context.
weaponization of scripture, Lord. We already here. We already
Well,
here.
I was getting ready to say, we kind of dove into the conversation. I had my script about chapters, but we can
My
forego
bad.
that if you'd like. But I definitely think my community want to kind of understand your backstory a little bit. I'll use some
Absolutely.
your actress words. Um, Tell me about kind of like your mindset about your going into marriage, your beliefs, and what led you down the altar in that eggplant bouquet. Thought I didn't remember that.
Them calla
The
lilies were
calla
popping.
lily.
Listen, that was one of my proudest accomplishments. I had,
Girl, that bouquet. The
okay.
fact that I remember that also was like, wow. But yeah, talk about your upbringing, which led
Yeah.
to I'm here for it. I'm ready. I got my
Yeah.
water.
I was raised in the church. Raised
Mm-hmm.
in the church. I'm the youngest of 2 girls. My dad is such a girl dad.
Yeah.
Like, and my parents got engaged after, like, the first night my dad met my mom, he said he was going to marry her. And she was like, no, you're not. What are you talking
Right,
about?
right. Mm-hmm.
And a year later, they really got married.
Mm-hmm.
And he was serving overseas, so it's a great love story that I'm actually going to write a script for, and
Love
that's
that.
like something that my sister and I have really been working on, because their
Mm-hmm.
love story is just so, they make it look easy, even though it clearly isn't. Like, they've
Mm-hmm.
celebrated 52 years of marriage. They flirt, they dance together in the kitchen and the living room.
That's
They, like, my dad's like, your mom's my best friend. And, when you grow up in that atmosphere, and my mom is a very strong woman. And at
mm-hmm.
no point in the marriage do I remember seeing my dad ever try to make her dim her light.
Right. Okay.
So it was like that was the model I had.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was dating, I grew up in a white area. And so dating was traumatic, and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's that thing of when you get to once you get out of college, like, I had a serious college boyfriend. He broke up with me right before my senior year. I was trying to get that MRS degree. And when that ended and I moved to New York to pursue acting, everyone told me, baby, you need to go to the church and find you a husband, because it was 2001.
Right.
9/11 had just happened, and
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have dating apps. So it was like trying to meet people. I was working in pharma at the time in Connecticut. So I found myself at this Brooklyn church.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, boom, ha.
I'm a
I'm
find my mister. So
okay,
wait,
I'm gonna find my
before we
mister.
get into yeah, New York, and
Mhm.
Zakiya Z and I came to New York around the same time, '01. Isn't that so crazy?
That is bananas.
When you talk about your mom and your dad and their story, was there an inclination in your mind to mimic and match that? Like, it was gonna happen like that way for you? Mhm,
Absolutely.
mhm,
Absolutely. I was like, all you need is love. Look at how easy it is for my parents.
mhm,
But,
mhm.
of course, hindsight is 2020.
Yep.
They never wanted to put any kind of situations that they were going through as a married couple onto my sister and I. So
Mm,
it's like, as a kid, you don't realize how much work actually goes
yeah.
into the marriage. Like, there was a
Mhm.
time where my dad was working nights and my mom was working days, and they literally just saw each other
That's some
in
shit.
passing,
Mhm,
and they still kept waking up and supporting each other, and they were
mhm,
still on the same journey.
mhm. Do you think your perspective would have been different if you saw some of their trials?
Mhm.
Hmm,
Absolutely.
yeah,
But
yeah,
also, I don't think I would have had it any other way, because I
got it.
also saw some people that see the work and they're like, I'm never doing it. Or they
Mhm,
come in with a different mindset. So I do feel like they made a decision as a couple that set me up for success, in the notion that I know that it's possible. I don't know how you do it, clearly,
clearly,
but
single party
it's
of 2,
possible.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I go home to see the fact that, like, yeah, they fuss at each other. Like, my dad told me
Mhm.
once, he was like, your mom and I have been living together over 50 years. We're gonna get on each other's nerves. It's fine. And it's like, oh,
That's that
right.
wisdom. Mhm,
Yeah, that wisdom. So
mhm,
it's like, I do, as I think back over my childhood and seeing them go out on date nights, and like, they play Scrabble regularly still. It's like, I'm glad they didn't show
mhm,
all of the work that goes into it.
mhm,
That, as well as the fact that Disney feeds us this idea as children that we need to be rescued. And the thing that I didn't realize, my mom was never rescued. My dad never tried to rescue my mom. My dad and mom met as fully formed adults, and they were like, yo, let's kick it together.
mhm.
Let's build
Love
together.
that.
But I didn't understand that as a child.
Mhm, mhm,
I put them in these roles of princess and prince. And I was like, I
mm,
can absolutely create this. All I need to do is love somebody. And so many people were, because of like different baggage that I've now worked through,
mhm.
I was in the Captain Save-A-Ho mode. Whereas I was like,
Come
I
on.
see this guy with red flags, but he just needs love. Because also, my house growing up was the safe house. So, like,
Yep.
all my friends could always stay over. They
Mhm,
could talk to my parents about anything. So I really took my pain and decided that, well, this is how I'm going to get a man.
mhm,
So when guys at our old church weren't running to ask me out, I was like, well, shoot, I feel like the same thing's happening again. And then
mhm,
the blackout happened, and our old pastor said, turn to your neighbor and tell them where you were when the blackout happened. And I was sitting next to my ex-husband. And that's how we connected. And I remembered I wasn't attracted to him. I
mhm,
thought he was nice, kind of corny, but and we both got into the choir at the same time. And I
mhm.
definitely felt, and I'm just going to say it, there is a, I'm ready for the hate to come. Listen, there is a pretty girl tax when you're a single woman and in church, period. I remember being at the new member reception. Not
Mm,
one person talked to me except for one of the younger new pastors. He struck up a conversation, then he called over his wife immediately to meet me. But they were literally the only people, and everybody else, I'm there by myself, trying
mm,
to do the right thing, get plugged into a church,
mhm,
and nobody's talking to me. And
mhm,
I'm looking at these families be approached, and I, of course, take it like, well, I guess I need to like start talking to people too.
mhm.
I In hindsight, I'm like, well, that's a red flag, because I shouldn't be anywhere that is going to see me as a threat. You
Mm-hmm.
know, ain't nobody looking at your husband. I'm just trying to join a church and make friends. But if you're already labeling me as a threat, as somebody who needs to get partnered up so that she doesn't accidentally cause somebody to stumble, then I just don't need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But my trauma kept me there. My trauma of wanting to be accepted, wanting to be
Mm-hmm.
the good Christian girl,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to duplicate what my parents have, because, you know, as you turn 23 and 24, your friends are getting married right and left.
Yep.
So there's that peer
Mm-hmm.
pressure. And I had been in like 3 back-to-back weddings. And I was
You're
tired of
like, where's
everyone
my
being,
calla lily bouquet? I'm gonna bring it back.
listen, because that bouquet was dope, right? It was so dope. It was
She was
so,
cute.
so dope.
She was cute. She was cute.
Like, but like I was tired of everyone looking at me when they were like, "Oh, she's gonna throw the bouquet." Like, I was
Mhm.
like, I have to date people.
Yeah.
And there was a transitions ministry singles Valentine's event. And I remembered saying to my now ex-husband, like, "Oh, are you going?" And we decided to go together. And we both pieced out early. We were like, "This is not fun. Let's go for a walk." And I remembered we were sitting in Cadman Plaza on one of the benches, and
Brooklyn. So we're just gonna land. We're in New York, in
Mhm.
Brooklyn. There's like Cadman Plaza is like one of the like central, busy, bustling in that, New York.
Yep.
Setting the stage for those listening.
Yes, setting the stage, and it was nighttime, and it was, you know, it wasn't freezing because we were sitting there. But
Mhm.
I'll never forget. I looked at him while I was talking, and I thought, yeah, I guess I could make this work.
Oh my
What?
God.
What?
So
But
you are like make what work?
I wasn't really attracted to him.
Like,
I
mm,
wasn't.
no,
But
yeah,
I
hear
looked
you
at
there.
him
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, and I saw his profile, and it was like, oh, he's kind of cute. I can
Mm-hmm.
make this work.
Mm-hmm. Because you were already down the aisle.
I
You were
I
already
wasn't
like,
already down the aisle, but
mm-hmm.
I was like, you know what? He checks all the boxes that this
Oh,
church seems to hold up as the ideal Christian man. He went to a Christian college. He grew up in the church.
mm-hmm.
He's a white dude teaching in the hood in East New York. So he's not racist. He gives back. Well, not really, but I saw it as giving back.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this interesting thing of, yeah, I'm going to try this out. And it was it was fascinating because I was also made a soloist at this church. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge church, like 10,000 members. So I was put in the spotlight.
Yep, yep.
And I thought that would mean I would get asked out more. And it
Mm-hmm.
actually was the opposite. And then there was a thing with like, when we got together and started dating, it was when everyone was reading Every Man's Battle, and I kissed
I didn't
dating
read it
goodbye.
clearly. Look,
I'm glad you
yeah.
didn't, because
Okay.
listen, I'm
I'm
still
like, what?
healing.
Okay. Oh,
I'm
wow.
glad you didn't.
Okay.
That book, I'm still healing from that book
Wow.
because it basically tells women that they're responsible to keep their husbands from lusting after other people.
Oh, well.
Yeah, yeah.
That.
So imagine reading that because he came in with his own issues, which actually, in hindsight, weren't actually issues. This is, and I'm gonna say it. And this, honestly, looking back, we were two people trying to fit into a definition of what Christian dating is, which
Mm-hmm.
is no physicality until you get married. And especially around that time, people were like, well, I'm not kissing till I get to the altar. So there was this peer pressure of like, well, what's the,
Purity. Yep.
yes. And he
Mm-hmm.
had a purity ring. So it's like when you put people in this situation where it's like, ignore your urges because it's going, every person you sleep with, you're bringing into your marital bed. I would like,
The different
so
voices for me.
yeah, y'all. I also do voiceovers, so I'm
Yeah.
literally going to be doing voices.
She's she
But
is
you
in fact
know,
talented. Mm-hmm.
it was it was that kind of peer pressure
Yeah.
where it's like you're waiting for a sign from God to see, well, should I go out with this person? But I'm only dating for marriage. So I'm not going to go on a date with you unless God tells me you're my husband or wife. And it's like we put so much pressure on ourselves to get it right. We didn't realize that it's like these are literally just things that somebody wrote down because it worked for them. And
I
then
will never, okay, I remember the calla lilies. There are different moments in life that you remember,
mhm,
for me at least so clearly. I'm a visual person. We were in the lobby of the church we both went to,
mhm.
and you said that to me. You were like, you only start dating if you know you're ready to get married.
Ooh,
And
I'm sorry.
oh
Oh,
yeah, you said it.
I
I forgive
apologize.
you. I forgive you. No.
Thank you.
And in my mind though, I was like, oh, okay. Because pause for a second. I'm in a similar space. I come to New York. I'm going to FIT. I'm studying. And I came from a church background, kinda. I got saved in college. And then, in college, you half saved, half not, but moved to New York. I was like, I guess I should find a church. Stumble upon this big church because of popularity, and I know no one, and I did not come up in the church. I did not know all the rules. I think, thank God, but I was learning what people were sharing with me, and it was like, oh, I guess, oh, okay, that's what that person said. Never checking doctrine, never checking what really and truly the Bible says. And Z and I have a Christian background. We believe Jesus died on the cross. Let me keep it buck. But we both have similar stories around new Christian energy and believing false doctrine that led to misconception about what marriage and what dating should be. So I remember that prayer meeting, and
Mm.
we always we'll go somewhere after. When you said that to me, I was like, okay, I guess I'm not ready to get married, so I guess I shouldn't date. So I definitely remember that and thinking that was Bible.
Listen,
Um,
and in the church I grew up in the black church. The black church
mm,
does not necessarily teach that. This was a
mhm,
specific evangelical teaching. And to
mm,
be honest, my parents thought I was a little bit crazy. They were like, "What?"
mhm.
And my parents are like so godly, but they were like, we think this is a little unhealthy. What do you mean you're only dating if you think they can be your husband? Like, how
Right.
are you going to know what you even want in a
Mhm.
boyfriend if you're not dating? And I was like, God will tell me.
Yep. And we just knew it too.
We knew it. And the thing is, we were
Mhm.
surrounded by people who were reinforcing that. So
Yeah,
it's like,
that's
of
true.
course, now that I've got distance, I'm like, yeah, this just worked for one dude. And he decided to write a book. And then churches everywhere decided to adopt it.
Mhm.
This was I Kiss Dating Goodbye. And the author has now since apologized for the harm
Oh,
that that book
wow.
caused because he wrote it when he got married at like 19.
Okay.
And I remember I was in my mid 20s and I was like, this this doesn't resonate, but I guess this is what we're supposed to do.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then with the everyman's battle thing, my ex-husband was like, I'm really struggling with lust and wanting to hook up and blah blah blah. And because I was Captain Save-A-Ho, was I decided that that was my role in his life to keep him from stumbling, even
Oh,
as his
mhm.
girlfriend. I
And for those of you who have, well, you'll see her in her full glory. She is a stumbling block to all.
I'm gonna fall off this chair.
The fact that she thought that she could do that just makes you.
But girl, wait. To be clear, but remember how I used to dress? I
No,
tried to
she was a conservative.
I
If you
tried to cover the stumbling blocks.
it was there was no covering, because if you could see, then you
Just trying to wear the most shapeless
so
clothes
modest.
around
That's
because
another thing too. I remember I was
oh,
the opposite, girl, because I
you
was
were
ratchet.
I was
I
jealous too. I was like, why she
I
get
would
to look
wear my
cute?
eight, my tight pencil skirt, my tight tee.
The rest of us
And,
looking like we are in Little House on the Prairie and you come in looking fly.
yep, and did not listen to those rules. But I did get my edges snatched when my then person and other people said, "You're just dressing so provocative." And I
Girl.
was like, I am.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
remember when I changed my whole vibe
Yep,
because I was told
yep.
I was doing this thing. So anyway, all right.
That clavicle,
That
it's causing people to stumble.
I love you. When y'all look her up, you'll see what I'm talking about. Hit me in the DMs, be like, "Yep, you right, girl. You right." So then ex-husband, cute what's Cadman Plaza moment,
Yeah.
start dating. How long did you guys
Started
date for?
um, I think we dated for 6 months, then got engaged, and then
Woo!
we were
Y'all,
engaged for like a year.
because
But
you heard that Bible verse. If you want to have sex and Paul tells you you better get married.
and also remember, my parents got engaged after 3 weeks. Like
Uh,
3 weeks. My mom
yeah,
had
you
a ring.
probably back then
So
though, in the 50s, that's what you did. This is 2001, but okay.
but I saw that it could work that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
So it was just like, yeah, of course we get engaged after 6 months. To be honest, I thought that was kind of long.
wow.
I was like, I'm a good
Like
thing.
what? I'm a stumbling block.
I'm
Duh.
a stumbling block. Don't you want to see what these blocks actually look like instead of under like a peasant
Up,
skirt and a blazer and a
laser,
loose
right?
tank?
A loose tank. 6 month
Mm.
engagement.
Yep. I do
Then
believe it was 6 months. Yeah.
yeah, I remember it's fast. I remember it's fast,
Yeah.
but that
Because
was actually standard.
yeah.
We were told short engagement, so you don't stumble
Yes.
and fall. And
Yes.
then short
Hmm.
engagement is short dating, short engagement, get
Yep.
married. Yep.
And you don't, as a woman, you don't pay attention to any of your standards. Your standards are too high. Throw away your list. Trust God. You're not perfect. Why do you expect perfection? I took that gaslighting and I threw out my standards. I ignored my gut because I was like, hey, we all have
This is
sinned.
a Christian. You ignored your gut because this is the
Romans 3:23. We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So who am I to judge this man? Maybe my role in his life is to love him to wholeness, because isn't that also something Paul says, that by my
whole.
godly example, he might really turn
Okay,
his
bring it
life
up,
back to
Paul.
the Lord. Listen, I read the Bible many times backward and forward.
So much so that I could be shady about some of the things and how people twist it around.
Yes. Yes.
Um, you said something, gosh, now I've forgotten because you were alluding to your gut and
Ignored my
going
gut.
against what your gut said. I had a
Mhm.
similar experience, and y'all, this is me getting ready to walk down the aisle. I remember it. I remember two moments where it was like, Heifer, what you doing? But I thought that that was Satan because our connection was of God, and look at Satan trying to dismantle what God. And I remember going to the altar and getting prayed for my doubt, and the pastor was like, no, talk to me. But I also felt so isolated that I couldn't share that I had doubts because, like, what kind of Christian am I? Because I need to trust God.
Girl,
So that
girl.
passed away. And I remember praying, like, and this is like when they tell you, like, be submissive. So I like was on prostate knees in my room praying through this doubt. And it
Mhm.
surpassed because everybody again surrounds you with, oh my God, you're getting married. And so you kind of forget. And I
Mhm.
remember in the basement getting ready to walk down the aisle, my makeup artist at the time, I legit broke down and cried.
I never knew this. What?
Well, nobody knew this because it was like the wedding day, heifer, like,
I know.
and and chalking it up to nerves. I knew this was the wrong thing, but I didn't trust myself.
Because we're not taught to trust ourselves. Do you know who we trust? And you can edit this out. But you know who we trust? We trust the person in the pulpit. We turn off our
Yep,
critical thinking skills
yep.
if we are people pleasing people. Because the thing is, everybody likes to say, the church is a place, it's a Holy Ghost hospital, right? So wounded people
Mhm.
come into the church, right? So if you think of the trauma that we all come in with, there are many of us that come in with that trauma that makes us rule followers and people pleasers. So we turn off our critical thinking and our intuition, which is God in us, and we listen
Mhm.
to what whoever has the
Woo.
microphone says.
For the Christians in here, we talking to some of y'all right now.
Yep.
But going back to that hospital narrative, when you think about a hospital, they only survive if there's sick people in it. So you're not really, if you say that you're a hospital, well, how are you going to stay open if people are not, if people are, oh,
Yep. Listen, I was waiting to bring this out. I'm sorry, y'all. I cuss, but I'm going through menopause and I have these fans and I was waiting for the perfect
so if the
time.
church is a hospital and you sick, the church is going to keep you sick so they can profit.
You're-
Unless you are speaking from the word of God and don't care about that. But a hospital is supposed to make you better and then you leave. So this analogy of a hospital is off, y'all.
It's
And you
so
can be
off.
upset at me. Don't hit me in the DMs. I'll block you if you feel differently. This is my thing, so I can say it. But that
Absolutely.
is something that is ill and wild about that whole entire narrative. So
It
anyway,
is.
I pushed everything I knew about me and my signs so down that
Mhm.
I walked down the aisle and betrayed myself. I think myself is still
Ooh.
mad at me for that. And
Did
she
you
was like,
forgive
all right,
yourself yet?
I have forgiven
Okay,
myself.
good,
But
good.
sometimes I have to be like, you remember, right? I'd be like, yep, I got you.
But
Mhm.
you looked beautiful. That's why I'm so in shock because
Oh, she had to do a full touch up. Like
yeah,
she
like
had
I
to fix it
couldn't
all together.
your
I was
energy,
cute. I was cute.
you looked amazing and your
My dress
energy
was
did
snatched.
not
No,
tell
because
any
again,
of
I was like,
that.
oh my God. And like people like, it's your wedding day. It's my wedding.
Right.
It's like, it's coronation day.
Right, right. Because what is the greatest calling? To be a wife and
To be
mother.
a wife and
Forget
mother. And
about
I took it on.
forget about the other gifts
Coronation
God
day.
has given you.
Yes.
You need to
Yes.
be wifed up. Otherwise, you will be pushed aside to the land of like neglected toys,
Yep. Yep.
you know.
And so, okay. So married. So
Mhm.
got engagement was, I'm sure, short too, because mine was like 8 months.
Mine,
Mhm.
actually, let me think about the timeline. I do think it was like a year and a half before we got married, but actually, I had the timeline wrong because we got engaged February 12th and got
Oh, you good
married
with that.
July 30th.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I remember he did this big ornate proposal and it was interesting because as an actress, I don't need that. I get applause every night when I'm in a show. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't need it to be this big showy thing. But he planned this whole day and looking back I'm like that actually was not about me. That was so he could brag about
The
what
things
he
you did.
did for this woman.
Well, I'm going to push you a little bit though, because you're speaking from an enlightened place
Oh,
about
absolutely.
your things. But do you think you projected that that's what you wanted? Is this big thing? And still, of course, it was about him too.
No, because I remember telling him, I was like, I don't need a big ring because I knew he was an elementary school teacher. He
Got
didn't have
you.
money like
Got you.
that. He
Right.
didn't come from money. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want him
Mm-hmm.
to feel bad,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And also to think about, you can't control how a person feels.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And yet I
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
like maybe he saw through to my core because listen, if and when I get married again, he gonna come correct with a ring that I actually want
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
like. But
Mm-hmm.
what he gave me was his idea of what I wanted. And it's like, yeah, he actually didn't know me.
You
He
didn't.
didn't want to know who I actually was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
But because
trying
you
to,
were just a box. You were checking the
yeah.
box and
And
like,
I was making myself small so I could fit into the box. Because I was
mm,
like, this is what I'm supposed to do as a woman, right? I had left the industry. Remember, I took a pause
mm-hmm,
because I was like, this industry is satanic and demonic, and I'm not a part of it.
mm-hmm.
So,
Because you're Christian.
because that's not what we're supposed to do, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So I really turned off myself
Mm-hmm.
so that I could be accepted by Christians, which is crazy when you think about it, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
everybody says, come as you are. God accepts you as you are. And then once you come and join a church, then it's like, well, now we need to fix this about you.
Yep.
Now we need to
Yep.
fix that about you. And you're not allowed to ask questions. And nobody was really honest with, I mean, honestly, I think Vanessa and Craig were like the most real about like dating and marriage. But I also didn't really trust many of the couples at the church because it just felt like
Mm-hmm.
people aren't answering the real questions. Like, am I the only person going through X, Y, and Z? But I always felt like, well, I'm a soloist. He plays Jesus in the Easter play. Like, everybody knows us. And I
Mm-hmm.
remembered being told by someone in authority that I needed, before I got engaged, that I needed to be careful about how many people I dated because now the congregation recognized me as a spiritual leader. So I can't just be dating whoever. I have to be very careful.
Woo. We're not gonna go down that road because we're gonna just fast forward to you get married.
Get married, yep.
Woo! Yeah.
Not so
Like
much.
butterflies and like
We
happy.
had butterflies. We got married in the church my parents got married in. Like I had the
Oh, that's
wedding,
right.
right?
We traveled. That's why I remember the
Yep.
how many times I'm gonna say purple calories in this talk.
And it was modeled
And it
after
was
my mom's bouquet. And
of
like we even had pictures taken. It like when I tell you I choreographed every part of it,
course you
I
did.
I was like, this is my dream because I also was getting married to show people in my hometown that I could get married. Of course, I didn't find that out until later, but looking back, it's like, yeah, that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I want the biggest ad in the paper. I want to show these hoes that I now, of course, I didn't say that
No,
because,
that's your mental.
but that was my,
You
you
came your
know,
mental. Yeah, I told
yeah.
y'all I could, and I came from New York. Yeah, I
And
get
guess
you.
what?
I get
On the
you.
honeymoon, you know how everybody's like, "Ooh, on the honeymoon,
You
especially since you honored God with your sacrifice, your sex
woo!
life's going to be amazing."
Well, for those of you who are not seeing this, Z has a fan that says "Bye, bitch" on it, and so I'm just gonna showcase and share with you that that's she just whipped out her fan, and that's what she said to me, and
Because
waving. So I
yeah,
mean, let's go. Let's this we might have to gate this as the after dark one. Because I saved myself as well. We did not do anything like we kissed twice.
I mean, I will say we had that not doing anything but trying to do stuff, but
Mm,
getting off on a technicality.
oh, okay. Y'all were hoes.
Like,
No.
yeah, we were like, but we had this extended remix hug, and I can't help it that my pelvis was pressed against his and that I felt things. It was like the silliest thing. Let me tell you that. Let me for the readers, the infantilization that occurred in that environment. I remember before we got married, but we were dating, we were on a trip, a ministry trip. And I remember there were several of us dating, and we snuck off to kiss. We snuck away from the groups. We
Stop your
kissed.
hearts.
That's literally all we did. We kissed. We were called in by the leadership and chastised. I was 24 years old or 25, a full grown adult. And I remember thinking, my parents were like, this is crazy for kissing. Like they could not believe it. And it's like, I remembered thinking, like, but we were outside. No clothes came off. We were kissing is wrong now if unless you're
Mhm,
married.
mhm.
So
Because you have to
going,
avoid, no, you have to avoid the appearance of evil.
even though kissing is not evil, but I took that
You
in.
might say. You took that in
I took it
and you
in.
also like were down on yourself. How could
Yes.
you do that? And
Yes.
what a filthy person you are.
Yes.
All those things,
Yes.
all those narratives.
All
So
those narratives. So
you
we're on the
finally
honeymoon.
you're in the
Finally,
honeymoon, and yes,
actually,
I can
even the wedding night, I remember
Mm,
the funny thing is, like, in college, I didn't go all the way, but I had some experience, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
stopped once I joined that church.
yeah.
So I didn't know if my ex-husband and I had any physical
Energy.
chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And on the wedding night, I learned that we didn't. But I
Oh,
was like, huh. Not from a standpoint of, is that all there is? But is that all there is? Like, it's not like
ooh.
it's I don't want it to come across like, oh, he was like a two pump chump. It was more like there's no connection
Connection, no
at
intimate,
all.
because you never built the intimacy that's required for that level of trust,
Exactly.
vulnerability to
Exactly.
have a connection, because that is such a vulnerable thing to do.
Yes. So it was like I'll never forget. We were
Mhm.
in one of those hotel rooms with the jacuzzi in it, and I was like,
Oh, yeah, I
I
did it,
thought we
yeah.
were gonna take a bath together, and the candles were lit, and I was like, that's it. Oh, I thought it was gonna feel different. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe on the honeymoon it'll be better,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm, mhm,
And it was more of the same.
mhm,
And it wasn't as often as I thought it would be. I was expecting like to have a mini fridge with Gatorade, ordering room service, like, let's
mhm,
go again. And it wasn't that.
mhm,
And I was humiliated because we only had sex like maybe once or twice on the
mhm,
honeymoon. I expected at least every night or
mhm,
day.
mhm.
And I felt like something was wrong
Why
with
do you think
me.
that oh, I'm sorry.
I thought, because
Sorry.
think of the narrative we're told. We're told men want to have sex all the
All
time,
the time.
and they
Mhm,
can't control themselves. So then
mhm,
when you're put in a situation where not only can
mhm.
he control himself, he's like, what trip do you want to go on today? What excursion do you want to do while we're in
I wanna stay
Cancun,
in bed
Mexico? I was
and
like,
get slain, like, what do you go
okay,
outside?
I
What? You
wanted
get
my
outside and
husband
then you yeah,
blow my back out, please, sir. You're allowed to.
yeah.
But here's what I
Yeah.
realized after time, the trauma of being told that sex is a bad, bad, bad thing.
Mhm.
It doesn't automatically turn off just because you say I do.
Ooh.
So for people raised in very legalistic situations, which he was, there was a lot of push and pull with, am I allowed to do this yet?
Mhm.
And it came, and I get it. But also, I was like, I'm gonna need you to put that aside because this
Mhm.
cannot be the rest of my life.
Mhm.
But also, trying
Yeah.
to be submissive, I was like, this might be the rest of my life.
Damn. So, there are women who are listening to this right now who are in this situation, Z,
Hmm.
like, and Imma keep it a buck 'cause, the reason Z and I connect so well, 'cause our stories are so similar.
Hmm.
Um, what do you wanna say to that woman? Except for, like, "Girl." Um,
I,
yeah, like, because it
yeah,
is, people are not talking about it.
because it's so humiliating. It
Mhm.
really is humiliating because, especially, think about the other girls that got married around the same time you did, and it's like,
Mhm.
"Ooh, girl, he can't keep his hands off me," and I would
Mhm.
just find something else to look at. I would be like,
Not awkward stare.
because it was like you also don't want to come across as like highly sexualized,
Mhm.
because women aren't supposed
Mhm.
to have a sex drive.
Mhm.
Men are allowed to, but women are just supposed to be a receptacle.
Mhm. Mhm.
I would say to
You
women
mhm. Go ahead.
women in this situation, I will say two things. One is that my former pastor told me something that I didn't know was in the Bible, was that because my ex-husband had not had sex with me in months, that it was technically abandonment,
Mhm.
which could biblically get me out of my marriage. I
Mhm.
never knew that, and they never teach about that in the pulpit because, of course it didn't get any better.
Mhm.
And two, it's not your fault.
Mm.
It it does not mean that you are not a highly desirable sexual being who knows what she's doing, who
Mhm.
wants to connect with her husband
Mhm.
in a sexual manner.
Mhm.
You're valid. Your concerns and your desires are so valid.
Mhm.
and you deserve to be with a man that can give you that kind of intimacy.
Mhm.
And it's not your fault. And I'm so sorry that I know what you're going through. And I am so sorry for the messages that taught you that you did not have the right to sexual autonomy in your marriage or sexual pleasure in your marriage,
Mhm.
that only men are allowed to have that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
I want to say to that woman that's, and my platform is for women, but if you're not a woman, you're listening, I hear you, I see you too. Thanks for listening. That you need to talk to somebody about it, because I remember my experience was I said nothing to no one.
mhm,
And that level of silence messes you up internally and mentally. So if you're not seeing a professional licensed therapist in your state, find one so you can at least talk about it. But also to, if you're not ready yet to exit your marriage, I encourage you to have a conversation with your partner, your spouse, to say, I love you and I want to connect with you in this way. And this is, and it takes courage and timing, but try to have that conversation. And if that doesn't warrant anything, then you can exit. But I definitely want to be responsible. We're not like, we are obviously both divorced women. I don't want you to just be callous and exit, but I do want you to have that conversation. Now, if you've had that conversation, you tried everything, and you're like, girl, it's a wrap for me. Yes, you have that is abandonment, and then you can deuce out. But I also want to say I'm sorry, and we overstand what you are going through because we've both lived it. And this platform is called Lived for a reason, but we lived through it as well. So I want to encourage that it will get better. It may get worse for a little bit, but
yes,
we were just talking about the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, but it will get better. And to trust it, here it is, pick yourself.
yes. Because also, yes, and to build on that, you have to prepare yourself for the the chance that you might have these great conversations and nothing changes.
Yep.
Because I had,
It.
baby, when I tell you, I tried everything
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
get that man to want to have sex with me.
Mhm.
And what I found out was he didn't have a problem with sex. He had a problem with sex with me.
Oh, that must have been so hurtful. I'm
Oh, it
sorry.
was horrible. It was
Mhm.
horrible. And I was also like, I wasted my virginity on you?
Mhm.
Like, I'm still pissed off about that. I'm gonna be honest. Cause like you wasted
Mhm.
like a brand new, never test driven Ferrari, and you came
Stumbling
in
block.
and drove it,
Those will be
drove it like it was a station wagon.
Mm,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it, it was like, oh,
Mhm,
it's just that he doesn't want to do these things with me. And I
mhm,
just want you to be prepared that some people have these conversations and oh my God, their sex life is amazing. They just needed to meet in this place. But also know that when you go into therapy, you just might realize that you actually should not be married.
mhm,
Sometimes, and I think this is a conversation that a lot of the youngins are talking about.
mm,
Sometimes men get married and they don't like their wives.
mm,
They just don't like them.
mm,
I did not grow up with that model,
mhm, mhm,
but I married a man who did not like me.
mm,
He got married because we were supposed to, because I checked the boxes of what a godly wife looked like. He checked the boxes of what a godly husband looked like. But because we were dating in this evangelical system,
mhm,
we didn't actually take the time to ask, do I even like you as a human being? And I say that with no hate for him in my heart. I think he would say the same thing. Like, we actually don't like each other as people.
mhm,
Like, we had nothing in common. Even remember at my wedding, it was like, how are these two people coming together?
Oh, we did say that, but you know what? You'd be like, you're gonna be there for your girl. Like, sure,
Yeah.
she knows what she's doing. She's grown.
She's grown, but also knowing that as you grow, like this is something that I've seen with my parents. It's that you don't change, you don't stay the same person. You
Mhm,
change. And every day you have to get up and make that choice to stay in that marriage.
mhm,
And when you are with somebody who despises you, but is spiritually abusive or manipulative, you
mhm.
might be staying for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So, like you were just to add on, choose yourself. Your gut is not lying to you.
Hey there! So nothing happened to the audio, if that is what you are thinking. Part 2 of Zakiya's story will be available in a couple of weeks. There's so much to the Z story that we couldn't pack it into just one episode, and I wanted you to lean in. So, did you lean in? Were you talking to yourself and responding to yourself as you listened, saying, Word? Did you clutch your pearls or feel like you had to? I know I did, and I was the one talking to her. Did you bust out laughing? If you said yes to any of these, I'm thrilled because that was the intent. Now, gather thyself because the next episode requires you to buckle up because it's one heck of a ride. Now, if this conversation resonated with you, please hit the follow and subscribe button and please share it with others that you think will benefit from it. So until next time, take care, friends. Thank you for listening and cheers to living.